Hi everyone, Velvet here, and I have some stories for you today. But before we get started, can you please do me a huge favor and like, comment, and subscribe? It'll really help the channel out, and it'll get you more videos like this every day. Let's get started. And our first one comes from Primary Stick 2264. Am I the beehole? For informing my parents and siblings, my family and I will not be attending family functions for the foreseeable future. My husband and I both, a 33-year-old male, recently became guardians of my niece, Ella, a 15-year-old female, after CPS got involved. There's a lot of background here that I need to get out of the way first. Ella's father is my brother, Tom, and Ella's mom died due to complications delivering my other niece, Becca, an age 8 female. Ella was 7 at the time, and she blamed Becca for their mom's death. She quickly became very angry and expressed hatred for her sister, and made comments about how Becca should have been the one to die instead, or that Becca stole her mom from her. Tom did not get Ella any help. I got involved and warned him Ella was not coping well, and things would turn nasty. Tom said he was helping the girl's relationship, and that's all that would be needed. Then 2 years later, with no therapy and no improvement in the relationship between the girls, Tom married Sarah. This is where things went from bad to worse. Becca adored Sarah and started calling her mom almost immediately. This only angered Ella more. She would get so angry at her dad, at her sister, at her stepmom, and she would tell Becca she deserved to die, and how dare she replace the woman who died because of her. She told Tom he was sick for doing that to her mom. She told Sarah she was stealing from her mom, and she hated her ugly face, and she would never be good enough. These are things that happened out in the open and were witnessed by our whole extended family, but they also went on at home. Sarah did her best to try and get Ella help, but Tom was not on board, and Sarah was not the right person to do it. CPS became involved after Ella called them on Sarah, and wanted to get Becca and Sarah separated at all costs. She wanted to punish her sister for calling Becca mom, and wanted to punish Becca too. It became clear after CPS got involved that while Sarah was not in danger to Becca, Ella and Becca could not continue to live together in the environment they were in. I think they only took things so seriously because Ella told the social worker after wishing Becca and Sarah had died and telling them how much she hates her. My husband and I stepped up and offered to take Ella, which CPS agreed to. When I spoke to them about the rules and how things would be handled, they said not to set up visits with Tom or Becca for Ella and to get Ella therapy. But they did say if we wanted to, we could attend larger family functions even if they would be there, but it would be likely better not to. I already knew this. My husband and I discussed it and we agreed we should all stay away while Ella's with us and still struggling as much as she is. I told my family what we had decided and they did not understand why we couldn't have quick visits or make the effort to expose the girls to each other in short bursts. I said I feel like it would be bad for both of them, but mostly Ella, who I had to prioritize as she needed so much help. My family then claimed my big announcement was like an F you to them. Tom was enraged. Am I the beehole? Well, OP, I'm gonna say you're not the beehole. Both the girls aren't the beehole. The stepmom isn't the beehole. I'm gonna say definitely the father is the beehole. He saw that his child was hurting and did nothing for her. He didn't try to comfort her, get her therapy like you guys are doing. And I don't blame the stepmom because it sounds like she's just a normal lady who got flung into this craziness. And how did he not try to help her? Because she's blaming a little baby for taking her mother's life, and I get it. She's a kid. She didn't know how to process something like that. She doesn't know that it wasn't that child's fault. It's just sometimes that happens in childbirth, and that sucks. He should have sat her down, tried to figure it out. It sounds like he's just a terrible father, or got her therapy, but yeah, it sounds like he's a terrible father, and we kind of see where he gets it from because the family sounds terrible too. They know what's going on. I'm pretty sure you told them what CPS told you, that she can't be around them until you get her head straight, which is doesn't sound like it's going to be an easy thing to do. It sounds like she had a ton of neglect, and you're gonna have to try to untangle all of that with the therapist and just being kind to her. It's pretty crazy that you guys are being a better parent to her, though. You're over here caring about her well-being, and her father, unlike her father, hell, even her stepmother cared more about the child's well-being than the the blood father. And yeah, the rest of the family has to be adults, and they've got to understand that you guys need to prioritize that little girl's well-being, and if that means not going around them for a while, they got to understand. And I like how the dad's getting angry. No, 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 no. You don't get to be angry. You're the one who put them into this situation for neglecting the problem, and that kept building and building, and it finally exploded with CPS getting involved. Terrible father. The father's the beehole, and the family's a beehole too. But those two are the beehole. Everybody else, you're cool. And our next one comes from Fitstar Anais. Am I the beehole for banishing my husband's sister from my house until she uses the names of my twins? I, a 38-year-old female, am married with 2 children, twins, Amy and Nia, age 6. We live in the same town as most of his family. It is in the other house, and I inherited it from my grandfather. It is the biggest house in the family, so we often host family gatherings. My husband's youngest sister, Jane, an age 31-year-old female, has been traveling for work ever since her early 20s. Mid 2022, she moved in with her fiancé about half an hour drive away from us. After that, Jane shows up regularly at family gatherings and rebuilds relationships with her family members. The only thing she never bothers to do is address my daughters by their names. Amy and Nia are identical twins. I understand that when people refer to them as the twins, but I think it's important that their individuality is respected. I also tell family and friends, now that they are 6 years old, it's important for them to have their own identity, and if possible, please treat them as individuals rather than a unit or a pair. My girls have different interests and hair/dressing styles, so it's not that hard to tell them apart. Jane always insists on calling the girls the twins, and makes no effort to distinguish them. I asked her many times to treat them as individuals, like her other nieces and nephews, and Jane would say, okay, and then keep doing the same thing. Last Christmas, Amy made paper cranes, and Nia painted flower pictures as their Christmas gifts to everyone in the family. They signed their names and individually handed the gift to everyone. Jane's fiancé had to work this year and did not join us, so after brunch, she video called him in the living room while the rest of us did our things nearby. Her fiancé saw the crane in her hand and asked where she got it, and Jane said, oh, one of the twins gave it to me for Christmas. The other one drew some flowers. I felt that this was disrespect, as my girls put a lot of effort into the gifts and deserve to have their private dedication recognized. When everyone left, I told Jane I expect her to call my girls Amy and Nia from now on, and to treat them like individuals, and know their differences. Jane said that she wouldn't bother as my girls are too young, so I told her she is banned from my home until she learns how to address my girls by their names. Jane just stomped off. My husband agreed with me on this. A few days ago, my mother-in-law called to plan my husband's birthday in early February. I told her we could have the party at my house, like usual, but Jane would not be invited. My mother-in-law was alarmed and asked why, and when she learned of what happened, she was mad at Jane. Jane called me a few hours ago, calling me a beehole for making such a big deal out of something so insignificant. She said my girls will be known as the twins whether I like it or not. And once they get older, people will recognize them as individuals, but not now, when they're young and just another couple of girls. She said she deserves to be with her family for her brother's birthday, and I need to let it go. Am I the beehole? Hi, OP. And you're not the beehole. I've kind of read something like this before, not with the little girls, but people not calling you by your name. It's a sign of disrespect. She's disrespecting you and your girls. There's no doubt about that in my eyes. Also, if this is something so insignificant, why is she making a big deal out of this, and why doesn't she just call the girls by their names? Even if she doesn't know which one is which, she knows their names. She could just say a name, and the one whose name it is will come to you. I'm pretty sure the girls know their names by 6. And that part, oh, they're just another set of girls, that's not fair. Like you said, she calls her other nephews and nieces by their names. She can do the same. I do not know what that woman's deal is, OP, but I'm proud of you for blocking her from her house because, like you said, she is disrespecting you, your children, and your family. And it's nice to get one of these stories where the spouse actually has the other one's back, like with your husband. And she doesn't deserve to be at your home or to be at her brother's birthday party. It's her brother's birthday party. He can decide who he wants there, and for what it sounds like, he doesn't want her there. So I don't know where she's coming from that. You are not the beehole. She is the beehole. Stick to your guns. Do not let her into your house until she apologizes and starts addressing your children, by their names, OP. And our final one comes from Adventurous 18593. Am I the beehole for telling my daughter she's being selfish and that she needs to take an Uber since I'm not leaving her older brother's wedding? This has been a built up issue. My son got married this weekend, and this issue isn't dying, so I'm going here. My daughter has very bad anxiety. She is 19, and I will call her Shelly. Shelly used to go to therapy when she was a minor, but stopped when she turned 18. Ever since her anxiety has been out of control, and due to this, she won't drive anymore. She has a license, but refuses to drive. We live in the USA, and driving is basically needed, or it's a big inconvenience for the people around her. Also, she is an adult, so it's not like we can force her to drive. This is the issue. My son was getting married, and she was uncomfortable with so many people around this wedding. She asked me to take her home. I told her no. And if she was having difficulties, to wait in the car. She told me it's freezing outside, and she needs to leave. I told her no again, and turn on the heat in the car and wait if she needs to be away from people. She didn't like this answer, and told me she'll have an attack if she stays and that she needs to go home. I told her to take an Uber, that I'm not leaving. She didn't like this, and it was turning into a full argument. Shelly told me I needed to take her home again, and I had enough. I told Shelly she's being selfish, that she has many options, and I will not deprive her brother, my son, of his parents being at his wedding. If I took her home, I would miss his wedding, since it was an hour drive to get here. She called me a jerk and left to stay in the car for a bit. She was back in about an hour later for the rest of the wedding. She has been super pissed, and her younger brother is copying her. Okay, right off the bat, OP, you are not the beehole. Like you said, this is your child's wedding. This will most likely be his only wedding, and yeah, you shouldn't miss this because someone's having, anxiety. And I was kind of feeling for her until we got to the end where she eventually went, like you said, she had options to go wait in the car. I did something like this too when I was a child, though, and it wasn't because of anxiety, it's because it was a boring, grown up party. So I stayed in the car with my brother and watched Simpsons on a little black and white portable TV. But yeah, she could have done that, and sounds like she did. So after she went to the car, had a little pout, came back, and she sat there just fine. So yeah, I think she was throwing a tantrum. She wanted attention. You didn't give her the attention because she came back and sat through the rest just fine. I took a look down in the comments, and I gotta agree with Antelope 31, not the beehole. Thank God you said no. Notice how she magically was able to cope when push came to shove? That tells you a lot. She's used to getting her way, and it's high time she started living in the real world and take responsibility for her own life. She needs to stop using anxiety, a perfectly normal emotion, as an excuse to not push herself to learn tools to cope and take responsibility for her own life and future, including seeking therapy if needed. Her emotional manipulation and threats need to lose the power they've had in the past. Again, not the beehole. It's called good parenting. She's 19, not 9. Well said, Antelope. Yeah, she's manipulating you, and she's been getting away with it for a while from what it sounds like. And yeah, it's a good thing you said no. She needs to learn she can't keep getting away with this. So, OP, you were not the beehole. You were just being a good parent. Thank you so much for staying with me to the end of this video. Can you please do what I said in the beginning and like, comment, and subscribe? It will really help the channel out, and it'll get you more videos like this every day. Velvet out.